the lady I consider to be advancing the women agenda, which I know, as she will come here, she will tell us what she has achieved. And it's very visible for all of us. Madam Catherine, the champion of women's on board. And she also has her own story before she started that space where we are and where we are right now. There is progress in terms of women issues. My council members in the room, the fellows of the Institute, Madam Lynette, Mary, and Madam Selina, karibuni sana, and to all the beautiful ladies in the room. The theme we chose for this breakfast is advancing women in HR from influence of leadership, because it's our chance to break those barriers, even as we underline on the theme of the International Women's Day, which is Accelerate Action for Women's Equality. If you look at that theme, you all fit into it. And we have a chief guest, a keynote speaker, a panel, and at the end of the day, there will be an action, a call to action for all of us on our spaces. Sometimes as women, it's not selfish to promote yourselves because the data out there already tells it. We want each one of you in this room as a champion of the Institute of Human Resource Management and also the architects of your workplaces. You are leaders in your own capacity, more than the 50 of you in the room and the over 120 online. Let's change the narrative, especially start with our workplaces, and also that is going to be now reflected nationwide. Because when we lead by example and we have access to the boards, because I know all of us report to the board, especially when you're a HR leader, what is it that you're doing for the great women of this country? And don't forget, the women in the city have started from somewhere. And all of us have a village within us. And we must go back and empower the women from grassroots. And remember, only an empowered woman can empower the rest. If you followed part of the debates yesterday, people who are questioning, they're like, the matters affirmative action is for the women elites. But that is not the case. You know, I had the privilege to work in 8 countries, and I've realized, like some country just across here in Somalia, the Women's Day is actually a national holiday. Like, you know, Somalis, Muslim country, and then they celebrate the Women's Day as a national holiday. You know, those are things that we must look forward to. And then within our spaces, what are those policies that we can drive? As HR professionals, you know, when you document something and you come up a policy for it, then it becomes easy to push for those affirmative action. And it's not because we are elites that we are pushing for this agenda. I don't forget to always remind people that I came from a background where getting a 3 meal a day was very hard. And if anyone was to ask me in 2008, will you ever be a CEO of an institution, let alone leave Garissa, then my answer will have been no. But because the space was given to me, it is my responsibility to ensure that no woman is left behind. And that should be our call to action. Let's follow what is happening within our country, and let's promote women agenda. It starts with us. Let's use the position of influence we have within our organizations to influence for those policies, to influence for those benefits for the women to thrive in their workplaces. We may start together between the men and the women, but we know as women there are things that slows us down. One of them is we have to start a family at some point. That pushes you back 2 years from the acceleration compared to your counterparts. So what are you doing when they come back to the workplace to ensure they've not missed out on capacity building? And finally, before I start my vice chair, it's also my call to action to the women leaders in HR. Let us promote professionalism in the workplace. Let us support continuous professional development for everyone. And I think if we invest in that, we will not only be helping the whole organization, but there are women who will benefit in that line. And we're here for you at the Institute of Human Resource Management. As Irene said, the last week of March, we are going to host Women in HR for a conference that this time we brought it closer. It's going to be in Naivasha, and I look forward to hosting all of you. And please enjoy the breakfast, enjoy the conversations, take part, and it is my honor now to welcome the Vice Chair, Madam Beatrice B, to make her remarks. Karibu.
Good morning. Okay, our Chief Guest, Honorable Harriet Chigai, the Presidential Advisor on Women's Rights, IHRM Council members present, our Executive Director, Madam Kuresha, event speakers for today, women leaders in HR, distinguished guests, good morning once again. As you can notice, I didn't put on purple. I just woke up and remembered that Mzee Atwoli has issues with it. On a lighter note. Yeah. So before I make my remarks, please allow me to introduce the council members present. Let me ask them to stand and just introduce themselves. Very fast.
Good morning, beautiful ladies. My name is Amina Abdi. I'm a council member representing Northern Kenya, Northeastern. Ama kuna watu hawajaenda huko? Niwapeleke? Karibuni.
That is Amina for us. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Kate Mwangi. I'm a council member representing Mount Kenya region. You all look beautiful, and this is our day. So let's utilize, if you think back and imagine who you are as a woman. We have the attributes that we have as women are so many, what give us. And then at the same time, when you connect that caregiving with leadership, we empathize, we mentor, from the office, at home, at the churches. You are wonderful women. May God bless you.
We have
thank you, Madam Harriet Chigai, our chief guest. Thank you, our vice chair, Madam Beatrice B. Good morning, everybody.
good morning.
Good morning once again.
My friend and I are
Happy and delighted that we have this occasion. Yes, and thank you very much. My name is Helena Pio. I'm the Commissioner for Labor, and I represent the Principal Secretary for Labor. So,
Employee Appreciation Day is a great reminder to celebrate
to our phenomenal ladies, leaders, and please let us support them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we move on again, please, we have the highest, rather the topmost category of our membership, which is the fellows. Please allow me to ask them to introduce themselves. There are very few women that we highly respect.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Mary Washekedongo, and it's a privilege and an honor to be here. I'm very passionate about the issue of gender equality, because for me, gender equality is not a female agenda, even though it has inadvertently taken a female place, but it's a socio-economic development agenda. It's really at the core of progress for humanity. So progress for gender is progress for the world.
What are we going to talk about today?
Actually, gender equality for me makes business sense and makes progress sense. Thank you.
Appreciation Day, which is the first Friday of March every year.
Madam Chief Guest,
You want to appreciate employees because
all protocols observed. My name is Lynette Odondi.
You know, we almost called
IHRM.
Steph and Brittany tell
I'm
you
a
about
fellow of
all
the Institute.
show.
I'm teaching at the Institute of Diplomacy, University of Nairobi, and I'm an associate of the EU Jambone Network, where I'm flying the HR flag in the international arena. Yeah, so it's a pleasure to be here. And it's not easy to be a woman, because there's always the extra energy that you have to put in to assert yourself to occupy that space. And we are on the right trajectory. So I just want to urge all of us to keep it up and occupy and sit on your seats squarely. Thank you.
Chief guest, all protocols observed. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Lynn Mengich, the immediate chairperson of Salaries and Remuneration Commission. I'm glad to be here and to see the women leaders in the room. Mine is really to say the women agenda is important for this country, especially in boards. And I'm sure Katherine will speak about it, so I don't want to preempt what she's going to say. But statistics show that when women are in boards, the boards perform better. So ladies, let's make it to the board and have a say. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Vinnie Pertet. I'm a fellow of the Institute. We as women have the privilege of doing a lot. We were privileged to be born women. And thence the need for us to embrace womanhood and take it to the workplace and take it everywhere. So as we go along, I request that we take our place, because having that privilege, we cannot hold ourselves back and say, let others lead. We're leading because we have the privilege and the energy and the honor. And I keep saying this, that women, we have a sixth sense. Sixth energy, I think that's what somebody there called it. Let's make use of it, and let's not apologize for being women. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is May Nyaga. I'm a fellow and excited to be here and encouraging all the women. I know there is application for fellows, and let's continue breaking the ceilings.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint-hearted, I will tell you, as Madam Kuresha will say, but at the end of the day, we have to show up and show off who we are and stand for our values. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Madam Kuresha is a fellow as well of the Institute. Yeah. So I don't know whether we have branch leaders present. Oh yeah, we have a fellow here who has not spoken, Madam Selina, yes.
Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Selina Makoha, and I'm happy to interact with the fellow women leaders and upcoming leaders. I have worked in HR for more than 25 years, but now I teach at the Management University of Africa. I am also in consultancy, Global Management Strategies Limited, where I've been doing real estate since 2009. I consult in leadership, management, and human resource. But the area that I'm really passionate about is naturopathy. You have heard a woman is even a nurse. If someone falls sick at home, they might even ask you to stop working and go and do what? And nurse the sick. You will not come to work if the child is not well or if your spouse is not well. But I'm happy. For me, I drive a lot of pleasure when I get somebody with so much arthritis and with a sack full of medicines to take when they are removed from those medicines and they begin to operate, just because they are eating well and I have guided them. Or if a doctor tells somebody that high blood pressure, sasa usikunywe madawa. Or a doctor tells somebody that diabetes, now just continue with whatever you are doing, which is your diet. So all these things make me very happy because I feel that I have space I have space to help others. There's a time I did research on women in leadership and on boards. And in Kenya, it was global. In Kenya, there's a lot of space. So all of you here, there's a lot of space for you to grow into. In leadership and in management, even in parliament, even MCAs, even president, don't, and by the way, the time you get, sometimes it's easier to be a president than an MCA because competition is always much less. So with those few remarks, I just want to say that I'm happy to interact with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam Waziri, we are elected to these roles. So, and branch leaders really play a great role. If I don't ask them to stand and I'm going for re-election, I don't know. Please, we have branch leaders here. Before I say your name, we acknowledge their presence here. Just say your name.
I was trying to play low, but good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Grace Nzula, and I represent Mount Kenya North as the Vice Chair.
Thank you. Clap for her. Yeah. So I am pleased to welcome you all to this Women Leaders in HR breakfast meeting as we gather on the eve of International Women's Day. What a fitting time for us to come together, not just to celebrate the remarkable achievements of women in our profession, but to forge stronger networks and cultivate the leadership that will shape the future of human resource management in Kenya. As we meet today, the world prepares to mark International Women's Day tomorrow. Happy Women's Day in advance. Yeah. Today's gathering is a testament to our collective commitment to not just talk about inclusion, but to embody it through our leadership. On behalf of the Institute of Human Resource Management Council, I wish to express our unwavering commitment to supporting women in HR. We recognize that when women thrive in leadership, organizations prosper and society advances. This is not merely a matter of gender equality. It is about harnessing the full spectrum of talent, perspective, and innovation that diverse leadership brings. Distinguished guests, I'm delighted to highlight some of the initiatives that IHRM has put in place to support women in our profession. First, I invite you all to participate in the upcoming Women in HR convention later this month. It will be happening in Naivasha. What's the name of the hotel? Sawela, thank you. I just wanted to know whether you have seen the flyer. Okay, so this platform will provide deeper insights, strategic networking opportunities, and practical tools for women navigating their leadership journeys in HR. Our Transcend Mentorship Program continues to pair emerging women leaders with seasoned HR executives. If you have not yet engaged in this program, either as a mentor or mentee, I strongly encourage you to do so. The transformation we've witnessed through these mentorship relationships has been nothing short of remarkable. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our esteemed chief guest and our distinguished keynote speakers who have generously agreed to share their wisdom with us today. Your presence elevates this gathering, and we are eager to learn from your expertise and experiences. To all participants, I urge you to take full advantage of this opportunity. The women in this room represent some of the brightest minds and most accomplished leaders in our field. Engage actively, ask questions, share your challenges, and forge connections that will support your professional journey long after today's meeting concludes. Distinguished guests, as HR professionals, We carry a responsibility in promoting equality in our workplaces. We are not just implementers of policy, we are change agents and advocates. Our roles place us at the intersection of organizational culture, talent management, and strategic leadership. We must leverage this position to dismantle barriers, challenge biases, and create pathways for women's advancements at all levels. In doing so, we also advance the government's agenda on women's rights, particularly through the implementation of the two-thirds gender rule and other progressive policies aimed at ensuring women's full participation in all spheres of society. In closing, I believe that the future of HR leadership in Kenya is bright, and increasingly the future is female. A clap for that. But creating truly equitable workplaces requires all of us, regardless of gender, to work together with purpose and persistence. Let us use today's gathering not just as celebration, but as a catalyst for the change we wish to see in our organizations and our society. Thank you for your presence and participation. I look forward to engaging with you throughout the morning. Before I welcome the chief guest, I serve as the representative for Rift Valley region at the Council of IHRM, and my term is ending in July. I'm not asking you to compete with me, but I'm asking you to vote for me. It is now my pleasure to welcome my sister and our chief guest today, Madam Harriet Chigai. Please, let's be upstanding as we welcome her.
No, you're very good students, because the last meeting I had with IHRM in Mombasa, who was there? We made a promise that for as long as a woman is working to take this podium, you clap. For as long as they are going to sit, you must clap. So you must clap for her and clap for me. And of course, clap for yourselves. Take your seats. I think for me, I'm truly, truly happy and honored to be here this morning, and especially to IHRM leadership and the council. You know, when you called me, I thought I've appeared in IHRM forums too many times. I need to take a break. But my team, I think you should just stand and wave. They said you must attend this one, and I said, okay, we are going. So we have Romana, Caro, and Claire. They are the people who actually make me look like I'm working. They do a lot of the work themselves. So happy International Women's Day. You all look lovely, and there's nothing that gives me happiness than to be amongst women. On this table, I think the council, Kuresha is my sister here. From the time we were appointed, we always elbowing each other, you know, and whispering what we need to do. Katherine Musali here, and I think I should sit and listen to you. I've never stopped listening to Katherine Musali. For the many years I have known her. I'm also a member of Women on Boards Network, and I hope I'm in good standing. So being amongst women, I think it's a very special space. And I got to learn that when I got this job, by the way. And every day for me, it's a learning curve. And I've never stopped learning, you know? And it's because women are just special human beings. In fact, I keep wondering, why on earth should we be talking about GBV in this day and age? You know? Because when you meet women, I've just listened to her and I'm like, that is a contact I wish to have, you know? Because despite the fact she does many other things, she has a gift of healing. So you're actually a doctor without even having to go through, you know, it's a gift. When I look around this room, she's a true politician, you know? And I was just smiling. I was telling myself, I didn't know she has that side of her. You know, Kuresha here is just on another level. And then you have your eminent council member, you know. I'm meeting her for the first time and I'm thinking, where she's coming from, hajatosha kuwa governor. I mean, we are all here seated in this room. You know, I'm meeting the chair, the former chair of SRC today. I've been trying to get her on call. Now today, I think I should whisper. You know, for a long time, women have these spaces, but we have refused to be selfish with these spaces. By that, I mean selfish positive. Selfish positive where you have to ensure, for me, I have a very short women, so many women, so many women. And even as we are having so many women, we should pick the best so that you stop pointing at Harriet and saying, why did you allow that woman to be dropped? Yet you appointed the wrong person in the office. Then you create problems for me and yourself. That is on a light note. You should laugh. You see, I've been trying to ask myself, why can't we attain 2/3? Because while I was in campus, I was part of the team that was doing research on the 2010 Constitution. I did chapter 6 with Nancy Baraza and PLO Lumumba. They were my commissioners. But to date, we are still talking about gender equality. We are now talking about Beijing plus 30. It is still the same story. We are now talking about why can't we have representation in parliament who are women? In my area where I come from, Western Kenya, it's the only region where we don't have an MP woman who was elected. And we are still talking about gender equality and representation. What does that tell us about ourselves? When we look at data, everybody says women are the majority. So what's wrong with us, you know? Like, what is really the problem? You know, what is really the problem? And can't we fix this problem, Catherine? Can't professionals go back home and we even get quality leadership? You know, you're all here. What is it that we can do differently to get the kind of leaders that we are looking for? Why are we leaving leadership? You are HR practitioners. If I was to design policy for HR and you don't have a HR person in parliament to push for the policies that speak into matters HR, so who's doing the drafting and the laws on matters HR? Who's pushing for you as HR? So for me, I want to encourage professionals. You must take leadership roles. Don't just take them within the professional setup. Go out so that we can also get the people within the rural setup to actually gain from the value of professionals within that region. Having said that, now I can go back to the government. Now this one is official. Now this one is official. So hiyo ingine uweke blank. So first, let me just say I'm truly honored that you've invited me again. And I'm truly happy that women are now actually creating room for themselves, putting meetings to advance your own agenda, which is a good thing. Someone said that we need to speak on what we are doing, but you need to tell me what we are doing, where you're seeing the gaps and what you want us to improve. Because I keep telling everybody, we cannot just be seated on our desk and assume that we know everything and we know what every woman wants in this country. We can only accelerate what you need. Otherwise, if you let us decide and do things without your input, we will do things the way we want them done, and then you're left out. So for me today morning, Kuresha, I think you need to give me an advisory that I can also take, you know, to advance this women conversation. And I think it's very important that we as professionals, we all participate. And maybe, Catherine, within Women on Boards, you should convene us to have these kind of conversations also. And at times it's also good to get a white paper, you know. We might think we are overworking, but you might be thinking we are doing nothing. So you also need to have a situation or a sitting where you can also tell us, for us to move forward, you need to open this valve. So that for me is very important, and you're all welcomed. My office was created for women. You know, as you talk about economic empowerment, I must say economic empowerment is actually a women's rights issue. Because all these issues we are talking about, the problems that women are facing, if we don't economically empower women, we'll still not achieve 2/3. For us to achieve 2/3 in parliament, we need to get women elected. We have the affirmative 47 seats, but can't we get our women elected? Me, that is my dream. The day we will see we've achieved 2/3 from elective positions, that is when we'll know that we've actually attained the 2/3. For as long as we keep nominating, we are still failing. We are failing because we want to be given it easy. And when you're given something easy, sometimes you don't take it seriously. So you don't even represent the constituency that you're supposed to represent, because we actually don't know the pain of the women who have gone through the muddy waters. And even your council members here, when you campaign, it's no joke. In fact, campaigning within a professional setup is worse, because you're actually talking to people who know. So you really have to restructure and position yourself, and to convince someone like Katherine Musali why she has to give you the vote. You know, you actually have to demonstrate, you know, not only with figures and words, but with deeds, that you actually are deserving of that position. So if we have done it within our small setups, I believe we can do it even in parliament. And for me, I'm asking all women, position your women, get them out and work for them. You know, let us be very intentional. So we gather on this day. So I have actually acknowledged everyone through my opening remarks. So the council members of this great institution, the CEO, Kuresha, Madam Katherine Musali, my mentor, you know, and women leaders gathered here today. Good morning once again. We gather on this day on the cusp of International Women's Day 2025, not merely to observe, but to ignite change. I want us to position ignite change. We have had this discussion for many days, but I want us to ignite the change now. Mwashe moto. Within this room resides the formidable power of Kenya's IHRM leaders, women who are not just managing human capital, but architecting the very landscape of our nation's progress and human resource. We all know that without the right human resource, there shall be no progress. And you're the ones who are actually touching the ignition button. The gravity of this moment is not lost on me. Human resource professionals are not simply administrators. You are the vital force that infuses organizations with the core values and principles of those organizations. You transform the mission statements in the daily lived realities of the employees and shape organization strategic direction. You are the architects of workplace collective culture. And the urgency of this International Women's Day, the theme, accelerating action for women's equality, resonates deeply with this great profession. The stark reality, as illuminated by the World Economic Forum, the 2024 Global Gap Report, that at our current trajectory, true gender parity remains a distant 131 years away. What does that mean? Our daughters, their daughters would not live to see equality. This is not merely a statistic, it's actually a call to action. We must take a deep dive and accelerate gender mainstreaming in all spheres. We are the architects of workplace environments, the custodians of talent, and the drivers of cultural change within our organizations. To accelerate equality, we must dismantle systematic barriers, challenge unconscious biases, and actively cultivate inclusive spaces where every woman and girl has the opportunity to thrive. We as HR must create the safe spaces for women within the workforce. This is not about incremental adjustments, but a fundamental shift in how we recruit, promote, and empower. We are the ones who can and must close the gender gap within organizations. In East Africa, women hold about 27% of senior management positions, despite constituting 46% of the workforce. What does this tell us? For us to achieve the mainstreaming at bare minimum in any institution, the women should be at least 46%. This representation gap persists despite overwhelming evidence that diverse leadership delivers better business outcomes. We appreciate that Kenya has made remarkable progress, moving up to 17 places in the global gender equality rankings since 2022. Clap for Kenya. But we cannot rest when we so much work, or a lot of work still remains to be done. As the servant of women in this country, I bear the responsibility of leading our nation's agenda for enhancing women's rights and empowerment. Last year, my office launched a strategic direction built on 4 critical pillars: leadership and democratic participation, legal and social justice, economic empowerment and investments, research and data management. Are we still asking what the Office of an Advisor does? First, with leadership and democratic participation, we are committed to building the capacity of women in leadership and ensuring adherence to the 2/3 rule in both private and public sector. Representation in decision-making is not merely a constitutional mandate, but a moral obligation towards inclusive governance and Kenya's sustainable development. Our second pillar is legal and social justice, which focuses on strengthening policy, legal and institutional frameworks through advocacy and awareness creation on women's rights, as well as addressing cases of sexual and gender-based violence against women and children. Achieving justice for survivors and preventing future violations demands a coordinated and intentional effort between government, civil society, corporate leaders, and private sector. Thirdly, the third pillar on economic empowerment and investment drives initiatives that advance women's economic participation, foster investments, and create market linkages for women-owned enterprises. Financial independence is the bedrock of agency and choice. We must dismantle the barriers that limit women's economic participation and their potential. Research and data management pillar is focused on developing robust mechanisms for collecting and managing reliable gender data to inform decision-making. Policies and programs must be grounded in accurate, timely gender statistics to ensure interventions are impactful and responsive to the real needs of Kenyan women and girls. On top of this, we have our CSR agenda, which is the widows and orphans in this country. So within your organization, if you want to partner with our office and plug into any of our activities, we have the Widows and Orphans CSR portal, which speaks to all the challenges and all the key pillars that I've actually highlighted. As a human resource leader, you sit at the critical intersection of policy, development, and human experience. This makes you an essential partner in advancing our national agenda that addresses intersectionality of nuances. The policies you implement, the cultures you foster, and the talent decisions you make directly impact women's equality in more immediate and tangible ways than perhaps any government directive could. I encourage you to champion this agenda in your spaces of influence so that collectively we can accelerate action for women's equality. Our president has demonstrated unwavering commitments to women leadership by ensuring representation at the highest levels of government. These appointments are not symbolic. They influence how policies are formulated, Priorities are set and resources are allocated within the various government agencies. That truly brings the women's experience and concerns to the policy table. We must also look at the government scorecard, and you need to tell us whether you feel our presence. And where you don't feel us, please feel free to actually give us a white paper with where you want us to put our efforts. The Women in Manufacturing program has supported over 2,000 women-owned businesses with technical training, access to markets, and capital. These entrepreneurs are not just building businesses, they are creating jobs and transforming communities. The question I ask, what can we all do to plug into these initiatives so that we pull together and these numbers can increase? When we remove bureaucratic barriers, we are assured that women will thrive. The government actually doubled the Affirmative Action Fund within the first 100 days. We are now talking about the girl child and menstrual hygiene. Where are we all playing and plugging into this, you know? We are also making progress in implementing the 2/3 gender principle through the proposed Constitution Amendment Bill and corporate governance reforms for public listed companies. I'm proud to see the private sector increasingly embracing gender equity as a competitive advantage. The Digital Literacy for Women Entrepreneurs program has trained more than 15,000 women nationwide. But I'm saying, instead of these 15,000 women, how can we get 8 million women in these platforms? Government cannot do it alone. We need all of you in these spaces. So my rallying call is that let us find where government is spotlighting the women agenda, all of us, and let us build the numbers, you know. Let us all create a web, you know, like the ants and how ants work. When government pronounces policy, let us take it up and be the owners of the data-driven in terms of the numbers that we want to shape and put women up to the marketplace, and even globally. But skills alone aren't enough. Women entrepreneurs need markets. That is why we have implemented the Women in Procurement Initiative, requiring 30% of government contracts to go to women-owned businesses. But wait a minute, that is government. How about the private sector? What are we doing within the private sector that can actually enhance these policies? As HR leaders, you can champion financial literacy programs within your organizations, helping women build financial resilience and place that data so that we can keep reviewing onto that data. I also want to emphasize on the importance of pay transparency in supporting financial equality. When women know how fair compensation looks like, they can advocate for themselves effectively. Your role in implementing transparent compensation frameworks is invaluable in closing the gender gap. The Women on Boards program, founded by our keynote speaker, Madam Katherine Musali, is creating pathways for women to enter corporate governance, including myself. Every organization must establish, clap for Katherine. I joined Women on Boards and I served into 2 boards. Don't ask me how. Every organization must establish a leadership, mentorship pipeline to connect and meet management women with executive leadership, providing valuable networks and development of opportunities. I challenge you to reimagine succession planning in ways that fast-track qualified women into leadership positions. This is not about lowering standards. It's about removing systematic barriers that have historically held women back. Kenya's corporate landscape is already witnessing a powerful shift. There are companies like Safaricom, KCB Group, KEPSA that are pioneering and demonstrating tangible commitment to gender equality. Not to mention EABL, which is, I think, at 60%. Government side, I must say the judiciary is leading. The Teachers Service Commission has surpassed the margins. And I also believe the AG's office is also doing very well. So I want to urge women during these Beijing Plus 30 initiatives, let us clap for ourselves. I honestly believe women beat ourselves too much. We work so hard. We beat ourselves too hard. We forget to celebrate ourselves. You have done so well as women post-Beijing plus 30 in this country. It has not been an easy journey. Any woman who has started anything, starting with Catherine here. And today, please don't walk out of here if you don't belong to Women on Boards. I was told there are 200 people here. If you don't support Catherine to support you, please don't look for me to place you in a commission or a board. Because I'll be asking, do you belong to Women on Boards? Because then I will know you're sharpened on matters governance, and where you'll be taken, you're crisp and ready. She sharpened all of us, and she continues doing that without even us paying her directly. So Safaricom Women in Leadership Program, KCB's gender equity assessments, and KEPSA gender mainstreaming initiatives are not isolated efforts. They're beacons illuminating the paths for others to follow. These examples prove that meaningful change is not only possible, but is already underway. We are building a foundation upon which we can accelerate progress, and you as HR leaders are the architects of this transformation. We believe in you. You must believe in yourself. You must all make us proud. The establishment of the Presidential Advisory Council on Women in Business, with its strategic blend of government and corporate leadership, underscores the urgency and collective responsibility we share. Your presence on this council as HR executive is vital, bringing invaluable workplace insights directly to the national agenda. You should clap. I have just found you a job. As we stand on the eve of International Women's Day, I extend a direct challenge. By the end of 2025, each organization represented here must establish a specific, publicly declared and time-bound target for increasing women's representation at the leadership levels. You can still clap louder. KPIs. This is not a suggestion. It's a mandate as HR leaders that we must carry. The time for incremental challenge and change is over. We need bold, decisive action. Make these targets public, measure progress regularly, and hold yourself accountable. I encourage you to strengthen the women leaders in HR coalition in alignment with your strategic priorities. Let this platform serve as a catalyst for advancement of women in HR, where they are the majority but still face leadership barriers. As I conclude, let me underscore the government's resolute commitment to women's equality. This is a commitment backed by the decisive action and strategic investment. Gender equality is not a secondary concern. It is a national development imperative and a powerful force for organization transformation and non-negotiable imperative for a just and equitable country. Let us seize this moment working together to create a future where every workplace reflects the true potential of our nation and a safe space for women to thrive to their full potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, Honorable Harriet Chigai. And I'm so glad that your team insisted that you need to come. Please have your seats just for a few minutes. That your team insisted that you have to come. It's about the relationships. And so thank you so much for taking the time. Madam Edie, I'm told we have about 250 now who are joining us virtually. So for the virtual team, let us clap for them so that they do not feel that they are left out. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us online. Madam has a very tight schedule. So if you see her leaving at some point, you will excuse her. But before then, and before she listens to Madam Catherine, which I know she wants to, she can take 3 burning questions, comments, suggestions. She asked for feedback, yeah? So let us give her the feedback or ask the question. So Madam Selina, I want 3, just 3. Jane, the third one, women. At the back. So yes, we start here.
Thank you very much, Harriet. That very useful and presentation. And before I make the observations, I just want to start by an observation. I've always wondered, but I've never had an opportunity to ask anyone. We give birth to these boys. We raise them. How can they not support our agenda? What goes wrong? So can we even also focus on how we raise the children? If it is time for cleaning, and you say, girls, he's coming back at 11. Girls, they all wake up to give him food. And when it is cleaning time, you send him for a walk. You are already demeaning yourself and demeaning your daughters. That is just something I have observed. And on terms of women affirmative action, I know Kenya is doing well because I've told you that I did some research on that, not maybe around 5 or so years ago. We are doing really well, but what we need is a revolution. The government needs to put oomph into that. The way Rwanda and Uganda have done. When Museveni was coming to power, he put the women in front. She comes with a lace with several pistols in it. And you won't know what is in that lace. Women can deliver even on the war front. I think it is even in the Bible. Who is that woman who hid? I don't know who. Yes, these things are in the Bible. So, but there's a reason why women continue to lag behind in as much as we want to push them. You know the issue of violence, isn't it? They will carry you up and remove your pants in front of the public. They will undress you. And women cannot go, some of that they don't recover from. So those are realities. So the government really needs to give them this opportunity to take advantage of all that affirmative action, and they will always benefit. There's this issue of land. For example, there are so many clauses in terms of affirmative action that have either not been implemented or implemented in a very funny way. Where I come from in Western Kenya, see they are saying that now women are sharing land. You are now part of the family, isn't it? First of all, you are forced to sell your share. Immediately you are given. Because they still don't want you there. But that is not even the biggest challenge. The biggest, yani, the is the worst that can happen in Luya land. Yani, unmarried lady, and if she dies and she's buried there, is such a curse. So there are all those cultural things. Then we have the issue of, in Western, they will give you 50 by 100. Even if everybody is getting 5 acres, they will give the lady how much? Yes. And now the chief supports that. The deputy supports all those, the administrative system, the culture, and even the women come to accept those kind of things. So I just want to say that the government needs to put in more effort, first of all, to observe those issues of, to observe the issues of affirmative action and to increase how they can see how to help the women. The women are really able and always carrying out multiple duties. Thank you.
Thank you, Daktari. Makofi kwake. Jane Motisia, but Jane, you don't have the luxury of Dr. Selina. You have not earned it yet. So keep it brief.
I'll be very brief. Good morning, everyone. So mine is to Dr. Chinga. And for me, it's about, you asked, what problems have we seen in the women's space that we'd like you to fix? And my call to action today is, how many women do we know that have master's levels of training, degree level of training, even PhD, but have had to take career gaps because of motherhood? If you just take your phone right now and Google returnships, just take it, returnships. You'll see in the UK, in the US, in the Western world, that is being taken care of by the government. The government has a policy on returnships, the same way we have programs on volunteership, and what else do we have? Volunteership and internship. So there, the governments have a policy on returnship, women who have at least 3 years gaps, because it happens, true? At least all of us maybe have gone through that or know a woman who has had to take a gap, right? So can the government do the same? Otherwise, we'll keep fixing the woman, fixing the woman and losing the woman. So the pipeline is leaking, fix that for us. Remove that valve for us. Like I want to use your words. Remove that valve and let women be given, at least from a policy level, because if a lot of us talk about it, then it starts becoming normal. For me as a woman to take a break and not feel guilty about it, you know? For me to go for that interview and not be seen like I have a rich husband. And that's why I took that particular break. So my plea and my call to you to action as we accelerate this particular progress, please remove that. If it can go to the policy level, that would be very beautiful. Please clap for me. I think it has been ignored for so long, and I'm speaking from a recruiter's perspective. The number of women that I see that come to me and have very high education qualifications, but have lost confidence because of the questions that we as HR are asking them when they come for those interviews. Yeah, if we give you a chance, are you not going to take a break again? And then you look at my tummy, are you pregnant again? You know? So if we fix some of those things and it becomes a confirmation that we can have it at national level, the same way we talk about menstruation, the same we talk about GBV, trust me, we'll have moved and accelerated this progress so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane, for speaking for some of us.
Yes. Thank you very much. My name is Rose Maruti, representing KCB Group. So yes, that's where we are doing a lot around women. We track it meticulously, and it's a close neck-to-neck competition between the men and women. Our challenge, as you have said, is the middle level, where we have the women who have taken a break and have come back, and how do we spur them back into action of being good, effective corporate leaders who can rise the level. So that's for us a key place that we focus on, which sits directly into my portfolio and around succession planning. Madam Harris, thank you. I really don't have a question. For me, I said I've been listening to this lady in many forums. So now I am putting myself out there. I want to be my friend and see where I can work with you around women. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Madam Rose. Thank you so much. We do not have because we do not ask. Yes. So, Madam Harriet, you can give your feedback on that.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. I didn't know KCB was here. So please tell Russo, I'm his ambassador number one. Who's from Safari Park? Oh, they're not here. Safaricom, sorry. So the reason as to why I'm spotlighting KCB, and please thank the management, including the CEO and all the directors, is amongst the banks that we walked into and asked to support the women agenda. KCB came out saying we will do it. When we launched the Boda Boda initiative, our Boda Boda initiative was advised by the Widows Program because we realized we are having so many young widows. And the reason as to why we are having young widows is because Boda Boda riders are not taking care of road safety, and by virtue of that, they are dying. Drug and alcohol abuse, some of them are in Shylock's kind of business. Others, they're raping our girls or impregnating our young girls. So we had to curate a program that will actually support the community at large. And KCB came big, and NCBA Bank, they actually supported the launch of that product in Kakamega, and now everybody wants it. So please go back and tell the CEO we need more support. So thank you very much. And all of you are my friends. Please reach out. Our office is so open. My team here, as you can see, they're young ladies, and they welcome anybody. Even if I'm not there, just walk in and give your input in terms of what you want us to do and where we can partner. So we are ready. Feel free. The question Selina asked on the issue of boys, and I think in our 2 years in office, I can assure you what we have found out in terms of how we have carved our children is the problem in the society. I will talk about the Western culture. And when I say the Western culture, Western Bloc carries Kisii, Nyanza, the Luya community up to Trans Nzoia, because I come from that area, I can speak confidently about the Western culture. I remember we have, and allow me to say this with a lot of respect to the male folk. When we circumcise our boys, we tell them, or the teachings they get is to hate a woman. Number one, you're told, never should we see you in a kitchen. Your mother now is a mwanamke. You know, the derogatory kind of whatever, language. You should never step into a kitchen. And I'm saying this with a lot of respect. I have 2 boys, so they're not lucky because their mother is different. So you find the culture, when you cover a young child at the age of between 5 and 15, and you're poisoning these children with how they will look at women, with how they will handle the society, then we lose the children. We lose them because once your child is circumcised, you've lost that child. They come home changed, rude, arrogant, kichwa ngumu, mama hizi mwambia kitu. So she's right when she says the boys were going to school while the girls were doing what? Yeah, you wash for them clothes, you go to get water for them. You are waiting on a child, even as a mother. You're waiting on your child. So how then do we carve these young men? And you see right now, everybody's saying we are leaving the boy child behind. But me, I'm asking, where are the fathers of these boys? As a woman, I am trained to nurture and take care of all my children equally because you're a mother. So a woman will take care of a child as a child. You will not choose a boy and a girl. So where is the problem? There's a big problem in our cultural biases. In fact, if they hear me saying this, they'll wonder how I knew. But my job is to research and get to know so that we curate solutions. So there are some cultural practices that we have that must change. We must carve our men to be men because we are still leaving them in that mindset, but our girls we've removed our girls from the traditional and cultural mindset, and that is why families can't hold. If I had a daughter today, there is no way I will encourage my daughter to be beaten in her homestead and she stays. Even a father, I don't think my father would want me to be beaten in our home and I stay there. So why is it then that we've cultured a hate-love relationship when it comes to our children? You asked a very pertinent question. These are our children. Talk to any man right now. They still go back to their mothers to breastfeed. Secondary breastfeeding. They will always be in shags. You can't talk about my mother like this. That is my mother. Oh, it's my mother. But when it comes to leadership, they'll never vote for their mother. So, hi guys. Today you're our ambassadors. So the honest conversations that I have, because me, I have honest conversations so that I don't have to backtrack what I said, because what I said is what I believe in. So the question then is, what are we going to do different to carve our young men to be men? Elon Musk has a forge. I've been asking the men in this country. They are talking about that conference of theirs is called what? The Men's Conference, which is on Twitter, by the way. It's not real. So can they hold a real conference and call themselves to order on how they are going to carve young men or boys to be men? Because when I meet my son at 16, I am still the mother and I will deal with him as a mother. Even when he's 40 or 50, I saw my dad, he was always at his mother's feet. He comes out from work, he passes through the mother, just to listen to what mom is saying. So what is different? What is different? You're still the same mother. It doesn't matter where you come from. So men, you must have a forge. And the one seated there, you must now be our ambassadors. And take note, I'm saying must. Because you cannot blame women for taking care of children. You cannot blame single mothers for carrying the burden of being a father and a mother, and they don't know how to be a father. There are some hard conversations as women we can't have with our sons at 20. They need another man to have that conversation with them. So it is not a woman's problem. It is a man's problem. I have asked all women to stop crying over young men who are lost. It is a problem that the men must pick up. You as a mother, you did your job and you did it right. So where are the men? Let's tilt that conversation. Then we'll see the men now coming up. In this day and age, we are fighting with men in court. Carol will tell you she was in DPP over maintenance of children. When you get into a love relationship, I'm avoiding to use the right words. There are two things you'll get: a child and a viral disease as an outcome, because you didn't use protection. So if a child comes, you must take care of the child. If you got a disease, you must go and cure yourself. Go see a doctor. So these are honest conversations we must have, no matter how tough they are. So that then is not a Harriet's problem. It's a society problem. So we as women must learn to dissect so that you also don't carry everybody's burden. If your child is at 40, has refused to marry, is behaving like a 22-year-old, send him to the father. It's not your problem. And if the father is not there, get another father figure. Because there's a loose nut somewhere. And you can't fix it, so don't beat yourself. As a woman, don't beat yourself. You did your best. Too tough. Affirmative action, a revolution. Same thing. You know, who told you you'll wait for government to place you in positions? You must come out and find the positions that you want. The rest will just give you a small push. And while at it, you must have the proper qualifications for that. Because if you're qualified, nobody can fight with qualifications. You know, the affirmative action seats that we have are good seats. But even as we put those seats in place, we forgot to fashion those seats to serve the women and children. So we have to go back and recalibrate what are those seats supposed to do? So that we stop, even as women within the leadership, you stop having the confrontation all the time. It's a competition between the governors, the women reps, and an MP. If those positions are well crafted so that everyone knows what they're supposed to do, the kinship kind of conversations will die, because all women reps will know, upon me being appointed, these are the three things I'm supposed to do. And let's make it uniform in all the counties, so that you gauge the women reps' performance pegged on those three key pillars. You know, so that we stop having, you know, the wars between leaders. And then at the end of the day, you can't see the tangible output in terms of work and the money that they have put in place. So that is the affirmative revolution I would want to see, where we are very intentional on what we want. You spoke about the other countries, Uganda. Exactly. But also ask yourself, why? It's a good thing. And when I listen and I meet the Kagame team, they're actually very brilliant. And you'll realize that all of them have actually worked for government. Go and do a little bit of more research. All of them, by the time they're finishing their school, whether it's HR, you sacrifice 2 of your years to work for government before you transition to any other role. So that kind of intention must actually be there. So you can't just, you see, he was very intentional. He had that strategic plan and he knew exactly what he wants. Our president in Homa Bay said, if you have an opportunity to elect a woman leader, elect one. Why do we have women leaders on the ballot and the majority women in those villages refuse to vote for them? I am not even talking about men. And I will not even talk about men. Because the population, the numbers, women have more. So you can't blame the men for our fault in electing women leaders. We are the problem. We are the problem. On that one, we must hit it hard and we must tell our women, step up, stop complaining. Get yourself on the ballot, rally other women behind women. It's as simple as that. On issues to do with land, I can also tell you for a fact, I've gone round. Majority of Kenyans don't have the right information. We rely on secondary information that in most cases it's lies. Katherine is a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, Caro is a lawyer, sorry, Claire is a lawyer, any other lawyer seated here. Oh, I've seen Kemi is a lawyer. laws, policies, and regulations are there, but they are all collecting dust. They have never been disseminated to the common mwananchi with a language that the mwananchi will understand. For instance, let us challenge ourselves to transform or to change the constitution in all the 47, to have the constitution drafted in all the languages in this country. Who's ready? We must. Because you see, in the rural setup, the reason as why people don't know what the constitution says is because the language barrier. In the Luya community, we are more than 42. We'll never unite because the dialect is different, so they say. But those are excuses for bad manners. So when you look at all these things, there has to be intentional and there has to be a center valve that can actually do the transformation. All of us look at the government. By the way, governments come in when there are problems. So let us limit and reduce the problems by doing it ourselves. And who is government? It's us. Governments put policies that expects everybody to align to, but we all fail to align. We all pull on a different trajectory. Then at the end of the day, when we come and do data analysis, performance is near zero. When the president pronounces himself at that level, there are all these other tiers of all these organizations that must fit in. But in all these tiers, there's sabotage, there are many things, you know. There are those who don't want other offices to pull up, you know. The downtrodden and the pulling and shove is too much, you know. So then there's zero performance because nobody wants to see results. So now you are blaming the top leadership, but all the foot soldiers has failed the top leadership. So we have to actually rethink of how we want to do things and achieve things. And the responsibility is on all of us. It's on all of us because when one person is overworking, you actually get a burnout and say, oh, well, these people cannot be changed. So let them be the way they want. Land ownership, the laws, widows, our program has told us many things. Kenyans just don't know their rights, you know? The policies and laws are there. So in terms of policy shift, government has done its job. Right now, what we are doing in our office is to identify gaps so that we can actually fill in those gaps and make things better. But who are the implementers? Why are we, in fact, I'm still asking, why are we in this day and age still talking about GBV? In all forms, FGM, and now we refuse to fix FGM and rape for girls. We are now raping boys. True. Nairobi in 2023 alone registered 1,263 sodomy cases. Nobody is talking about it. Nobody. Those are 1,263 boys destroyed, so they'll not be men by the time they reach the of age. So multiply that by 10 years, we'll have no men in this country. We must fix that. We must fix it. So while they think it is fun to rape a 2-year-old girl, now the boys are being raped. Now, the other issue was on employment. Dr. Chinga. Oh, okay, mine is Chigai. My name is Chigai, okay. So you're Jane. So when it comes to laws and policy degrees, you've said there are so many women, they return to work policy. For me, I remember I worked for an organization where I was the top manager alone for a long time, and I was very lonely. But I managed to convince the chair that any vacant position that comes, let it be a woman. And by the time I left, that organization currently has the one woman CEO that I recruited during my tenure. So it is you HR practitioners, that must set the right policies in the organizations. Because we have unwritten policies and we have written policies. In some organizations, it's unwritten policy that young girls who, or a woman who's at the childbearing age, and maybe even that woman is not interested in getting married, should never be a manager. Why would you deny a young woman an opportunity to lead? You know, those are policies in corporate setups that nobody talks about, because we are keen on KPIs and we are not thinking about the progressive growth of the institution. Now, on this one, I want to challenge the HR practitioners. The next event you invite me, Madam Koresha, we should actually be launching this policy. Because from the experiences we had, you know, like for me in my private law firm, when someone goes on maternity leave, when they come back, the next 3 months, they work half day. And that was a policy in one of the organizations I was in. When someone gets their maternity leave, you get your 3 months, but when you return to work, you're even told to work half day. But that was because the CEO at the time of that organization was a lady, Keegan. And the policies that we built in that organization were apt for women, and nobody left. I rose up the ranks myself up to leading the Directorate of Legal. So you then realize that these policies are with you, Madam Koresha. The other policy I keep insisting on is menopause policy. Yeah, and for men you can give them, it's called what? Yes. That's the time you see your manager riding a yellow Mercedes or a red Ferrari or an replica of a Ferrari or a Subaru with, you know, big exhausts at 55. He's become a Subaru boy. These things are natural things. It's God who created us the way we are. We can't change, but it's upon us to create policies that actually help us to deliver on our work. So, Madam Koresha, those 2 policies, I've spoken about this for the last 2 years. I think we need to launch these 2 policies on a national platform. And I leave that assignment with IHRM. Asante.
Kuuliza maswali, you ask the questions and you're given the feedback, but it's a collective responsibility. We all have something to do. So allow me to invite our Vice Chairperson, Madam Beatrice, to just present a token of appreciation to Madam Harriet. Tumpigie makofi tafadhali. And she can declare it is within the limits. Yeah. We can move this way a bit. Yeah, there. Thank you so much. Thank you. Asante sana for making the time to join us this morning. Another clap as they sit, tafadhali. All right, so we have had Katherine Musali mentioned enough times. Thank God she was not eating. I'm African like that. You know how you think if someone has mentioned you, then that's why you're coughing. So before we listen to Katherine, because you have had breakfast, it's getting warmer, we need you to be attentive. Please rise up, tafadhali tusimame. You move from the table you are at, meet 2 or 3 people, tell them your name and your birthday. Birthday, I didn't say yeah, just the day. Oh, and me, I need to... Move to the next one. No, as many as you can. Make sure you pose for a nice picture. Ya, niko nyuma. All right, all right. 1 more minute. All right, you can have your seats now. Let's have our seats. Milka, wow, Mary, please help me. People need to take their seats. All right, all right. Let us take our seats now. Ladies, 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 ladies. Jane Mutisia and company, please take your seats. Mega Dua. Madam Kuresha and team, let's have our seats. Madam Catherine, Vice Chair Lady. Oh my God. Chukua mic.
If you can hear me, clap once. 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 If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap twice. Please take your seats.
That's why you have grace. Aya, tafadhali, let us be seated. Ladies, thank you. Fine. Damaris Dungwa, good morning. You can warm your seats now. Aya, tujipigie makofi. I hope you have met 1 or 2 people and you have exchanged contacts. Not yet, we'll do that after. So let us allow the room, yes, thank you. So Madam Katherine Musali is a distinguished lawyer and governance professional known for her analytical mindset, tireless work ethic, and unwavering commitment to achieving exceptional outcomes for her clients. As a legal and governance consultant for the World Bank, she brings strategic insights and expertise to global governance initiatives. Her visionary leadership is perhaps most evident in her founding the Women on Boards Network, a Kenyan nonprofit dedicated to advancing women on board leadership. She's also the founder and managing partner of Dorian Associates LLP. Throughout her career, Katherine has demonstrated that her enthusiasm for excellence and strong vision translates to tangible results. Her work consistently bridges the gap between governance, theory, and practical implementation, making her a respected voice in boardrooms and a champion for women's leadership advancement across Kenya and beyond. So ladies, let us put our hands together for Katherine Musali.
Thank you very much, Irene. Happy International Women's Day. You look lovely from here. Madam Chigai, you didn't tell us that. You do. Oh, she did. Awesome. You look lovely from here. Madam Harriet, Thank you very, very much for those kind words. She is one person who speaks my name even in rooms that I'm not there. And that is what we should be doing as women. Thank you very, very much. And because she gave us all a challenge, for those who are not members of Women on Boards Network, Irene, Rose, where are you? Those are members of our committees at Women on Board. So please reach out to those two and they will guide you on how to join Women on Boards Network. Madam Harriet, I would like to add one more policy to the policies that Kuresha is going to prepare and launch for all of us. And that is gender budgeting. Gender budgeting. Yeah, we must insist that organizations are not going to pay lip service to what women need to succeed in the workplace. And so when organizations are forced to ensure that their budgets take into account the needs that we have as ladies as part of their strategy, I think it will be quite impactful. So gender budgeting, Madam Kuresha, is another one that I would love to add to your homework. Thank you for giving us that homework. Let me start by asking, why are we here today? Really, why are we here today celebrating this day? I think we are here celebrating this day because of the women who have gone before us, the women who have made, lots of sacrifices and put their hand up and said, I'm here and I stand for the women folk. And I think we need to take just a second or two and pause and ask. So I'm standing on those shoulders of those women who have gone before us, including my mother, right? Because our mothers have made those sacrifices. What sacrifice have I made as a woman for the other women? How am I making this country, this world, a better place for women? Just a moment. Don't answer anybody. Just think. And remember the story of the hummingbird, yeah? So it doesn't have to be those big things that only the office of Harriet will deliver. But in your sphere of influence, what are you doing to make the place a better place for women? So it is indeed a privilege for me to be here with you and to share the celebration with you as we take stock and challenge ourselves to accelerate gender diversity in the workplace and indeed generally in the economy. It is my thesis that HR professionals are uniquely positioned in organizations as architects of the workplace culture, talent development, and policies that shape the organization. So you know where I'm going. If we are the architects of the workplaces that we are in, and we shape the workspaces, so what we see today is as a result of what we have been doing in the workplaces. Do I speak to somebody? So yet, despite the fact that women make up the majority of the HR profession, we are still here talking about gender diversity. Hard hitting. We make up the majority of the HR profession. We are the architects of the workplace policies, culture, whatever. But we're here talking about gender diversity. Is it making sense? So the boardroom, the leadership spaces within organizations we still remain underrepresented. Yes, we have made steps, we have taken steps, and Kenya is doing pretty well. Thank you, Madam Harriet, for challenging, many women to step up as well and to take up leadership positions. So HR, in my view, is a strategic powerhouse that drives organizational success. You're not just policy implementers, in my view, but you are policy creators. And you influence everything right from hiring practices through to retention strategies, through to talent development, and finally succession planning. How about us making sure that that influence is colored by gender diversity considerations? And so as HR leaders, you have power in ensuring that, hiring, retention, talent development, promotions, pay equity, all of that is fair. And it is also driven from a data perspective. You have power to design leadership development programs that will propel leaders, women, into leadership positions, into decision-making roles so that they can continue to influence policy. You have the power also to hold senior leadership accountable for diversity and inclusion metrics. So as we design the policies, as we put in place KPIs hopefully that have teeth, we also, as HR professionals, have the responsibility to hold top leadership accountable, including the board. So you have power to influence policy, you have power to influence decision-making. However, despite all of this, we still have systemic barriers which persist for women. Women face unconscious bias. Women face stereotyping in the workplace. Women face organizational challenges that are holding them back. And I go back to what Madam Harriet said. We have power to make the changes that we desire to see. Women still experience limited access to sponsorship. Women still experience the double burden of leadership ambition versus societal expectations. What does the society expect of us women? Versus what do we want as women? And how do we see ourselves adding value? So truth be told, biases still exist in hiring, in promotions, in leadership selection. And we in this profession have the power to change or at least to influence that. So HR professionals have the responsibility to challenge this at the governance and leadership levels. When I think about women, and especially the women I've come across, women not only need mentors, they need sponsors, they need executives who advocate for them in spaces where they cannot find themselves. And that's why I'm so grateful to Madam Harriet as well, because she speaks about us even when I'm not there. And that is what we should do for other women. Do we speak for other women in spaces where they're not represented? We need professionals who have the power to level the playing field. And in this room, if there are architects in any organization who can level the playing field, you have the power to do that. You have the power to speak truth to the board. When the board is making decisions which, in your view, are not futuristic in terms of where the women want to be, you have power to turn that. And let me tell you what, as HR professionals, any board member who prides themselves as being a very good board member will be, I don't want to use the word, I wanted to say stupid, but I've said it. I said it, yeah? Will be irresponsible not to listen to you, yeah? So please don't shy away from using that power. You just need to put the fear of God in them. And they will do it. And they will do it gladly. So you have the power to ensure that companies integrate and not just accommodate women in leadership. It is about, and I keep saying, people say diversity and inclusion. I say diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and access. Because unless I feel that I belong, I'm not going to do my best. So diversity will not happen by accident. It must be intentional. It must be measurable. KPIs that have teeth and are measurable. It must be embedded in the organization's strategic plans and operational plans. It must be embedded in all of the policies. So today I want to challenge each one of us, not just to advocate for gender equality and equity in the workplace, but we ourselves must step into those leadership roles that will drive those systemic changes that we want to see. So we must move beyond the conversations about the diversity that we want to see and take bold strategic actions that make it a business imperative, not just an aspiration. It must be part and parcel of the strategy of the organization. One of the most powerful ways to accelerate gender parity is through critical HR representation at the top leadership and governance level. Madam Kresha, I would like to know, how many HR professionals are represented in boards? Because that's where we make the decisions. That's where we make policy. How many of us are represented in boards? What are we doing? What are we taking at our level, at IHRM level, to make sure that we have representations in all of these boards? And when you look at the boards of companies that are doing very well in terms of gender parity, there is a HR person there. There is a HR person there, because one of the most critical assets, precious assets that any organization has is its people. Is its people. And so putting people first is one of the things that we must advocate for as HR professionals. Madam Lynn was in charge of HR in Shell, where I worked before. And some of these things that I talk about, gender budgeting, job sharing, telecommuting, is what she did. So there is so much knowledge seated at that table, Madam Kuresha, I'm now revealing, sitting at that table that you may need to tap into. Because some of the policies that she drove at Shell, those years back when I was still there, were strange policies then. But now they are policies that are so important. When I had my daughter many years ago, now she has an ID. These guys had put in a policy that I could travel anywhere in the world with my daughter and my nanny. Who talked about those things then, you know? So I think we can gain a lot of knowledge from some of those policies that were put in place and some of those policies that have shaped some of us. So governance, in my view, is where the real power lies, where policies are set, where leadership decisions are made, and where businesses are shaped for the future. We must be there. As HR professionals, we must be there. We must pursue those board positions to influence corporate strategy. And any leader, any MD who tells you that you should not be sitting on a board because you're working for them doesn't know that they're making a big mistake. Because when you get experience from other places where you're sitting on the board, you bring it into the organization and you add value from that perspective. So we must ensure that as HR leaders, we are advocating for diversity targets, for bias-free leadership assessments. At Women on Boards, I have seen firsthand that board exposure expands leadership influence. And if we want to drive real systemic change, we must take our seat at the table. Now, nobody gives you that seat at the table, unfortunately. And I cannot promise you that I will give you that seat at the table. But collectively, we can get those seats at the table. But it starts with you. Thank you. It starts with you as an individual, positioning yourself for that board leadership position. And telling somebody and networking in the right place and telling somebody that you want that position. Do you remember that lady who brought her own seat? She was told, you know, it looked so terrible up here. She brought her own seat. So how are we boxing ourselves? Let me use that word. How are we boxing ourselves at the board level? HR professionals, therefore, have a duty to position themselves for board leadership because that's how we shall change policy. We must sit at the governance and leadership spaces in the organizations. And I want to share some very quick things and deliverables that we can do. And perhaps some of these will find themselves in takeaways for Madam Kuresha. And the first one is that we must build leadership pipelines for women. We must track and report gender promotion rates and leadership diversity within organizations. Unless we measure, we will not know whether we are achieving it or not. The second thing is we must drive inclusive leadership training. HR must equip managers to identify and eliminate bias. We must engage our male allies. Gender diversity is not just a women's issue, it's a business issue. And getting men to actually own some of these things makes them our allies. We must make gender diversity a top board and CEO priority, tone at the top. It must be in the strategy. If it's not in the strategy, it's not getting done. Top, tone at the top. We must view diversity as an issue of strategy. We must make women who have made it visible through data. We must role model so that women can see that it can be done and it is being done. We must fast track women into leadership. And it's not about bias. It's correcting historical injustices, yes. So let's fast track women into leadership. And there are ways of fast tracking them. And I'm not saying bring an unqualified person, make them access those programs that will help them rise into leadership. Encourage networking that works for women. And that's why I'm so happy that you have programs for women within HR as well. So networking that works for women. We network differently from men. And networking with other women helps us. Mentorship sponsorship, coaching. Those are absolutely important for us. And sometimes they also help us to eliminate biases, to eliminate unconscious bias, to eliminate stereotypes. We must embrace gender and family-friendly policies, gender and family-friendly policies. And that's why Madam Harriet was talking about Safaricom, KCB, etc. I have been fortunate enough to audit some of these organizations for governance, and I have looked at some of their policies, and some of them are amazing. So gender-friendly, family-friendly policies. Policies like flexi time. I mean, for some of us, we don't want to work 8 hours a day, but we want to earn some money, isn't it? So make it possible for me to earn money, to work from home or whatever. Returnship. Let me have my babies and let me come back and just continue. Telecommuting. Equal pay. Job sharing. Why don't we job share in this country? Why must I be the one working 7 days a week when I can share with somebody else and they earn for 2 days and I earn for 3 days? Why not? So that I am enough for my family and I'm also enough for my employer, right? Job sharing, childcare policies, you know? So all those main gender mainstreaming policies that we need in the workplace. And of course, set targets with teeth. So I want to leave you with this challenge. HR leaders have tremendous influence, but influence is only powerful if we use it strategically. We cannot afford to only advocate for gender diversity. We must position ourselves as executive leaders and boardroom influencers. It starts with us being there before we can advocate for other people. So my question to you as I end is this: will you step up? Not just to implement policies, but to shape leadership and governance itself. Will you take that seat at the table? The future of gender equality depends on leaders who are intentional, who are strategic, who are bold. I thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Madam Catherine. Yeah, it's good you have adjusted the clapping. Eh? She deserves a better clap. Eh? Madam Helen, if you could present this to her as I get assistance. Okay, I didn't know that. All right, Makofi Kwao, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner, as well, for honoring us. Asante, let's get help setting up for the panel discussion. Meanwhile, I can be introducing the speakers so that we... Also, one is in legal, has a legal background, the others are coaches. So you will want to listen to them. So allow me to introduce Madam Emily Kamunde Osoro. Emily is an accomplished HR leader with over 20 years of experience and the founder of Rise and Learn Global, which offers HR outsourcing, training, and coaching services. As Kenya's partner for Ericsson Coaching International, she represents an ICF accredited program present in 85 countries. Her career spans executive HR roles at Kenya Airways, Syngenta, and Jubilee Insurance, with expertise in HR strategy, leadership development, and organizational transformation across Africa and the Middle East, with over 700 plus hours in coaching for multinational clients. Emily is an active member of SHRM, IHRM Kenya, and HRMAU. I believe that is Uganda. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and help me welcome Emily Kamunde Osoro. Emily, you can just join us. I think we're ready now. Then we have Nancy Mokua. Serving over 300 recruiting agencies and corporate brands with over 1 million subscribers, Nancy helps organizations implement their strategies that drive positive business outcomes. She specializes in recruitment strategy, headhunting, culture building, performance management, and legal compliance, while passionately coaching professionals to articulate their distinctive skills and demonstrate their true value in the marketplace. Makofi kwake. Someone said your new CV is your social media platform, your LinkedIn platform, and all those other platforms. So you'll want to listen to her on how you can position yourself. Finally, we have Jane Mutisia. Jane Mutisia is a certified professional coach with years of international HR experience, specializing in creating coaching culture that drives employee engagement and organizational performance. Her career includes leadership roles at BBC Media Action, USAID, and Practical Action East Africa. As a founder of Career Management Center Limited in Nairobi, Jane applies her experience and expertise in recruitment, job evaluation, benefit management, and HR transformation to help organizations and individuals thrive. Jane actively shapes the HR profession as Vice President of the Nairobi International HR Roundtable, a member of IHRM and the Talent Champions Council. She advocates for women leadership while building strategic networks with government institutions and international organizations. Makofi kwa Jane. Thank you, Jane. So we seek your indulgence. Please allow us to have this quick conversation so that we allow you to get to your day, but it's 10:33. So if we finish at 11:15, is that okay? So that we give them 30 minutes and we can take your questions. Sawa sawa. Sawa sawa. Let's start with Kemi, Nancy Mokua. You are leading one of the top e-recruitment platforms. And I've just said your CV or your social media platform is your social media platform is your new CV. How can these ladies position themselves, not just for now, but also for the future and what they want to achieve on social media, on e-platforms.
Wow. Good morning, everyone. Yes, and indeed, we look very nice, everyone. And thank you so much for having us. And indeed, it's a privilege to be amongst champions in your own fields. So we know time is not on our side. And yes, you can call me Kemi or Kemunto. You know, it depends. It depends on where you met me in this walk of life. So I go by both, even Nancy. That is very much all right. Okay. First of all, in this age of technology, personal brand, what does your personal brand tell people about you? So the first thing, even as when we're doing talent acquisition, the first thing you look at, it probably would be someone's CV, or someone has sent you someone to you. So first of all, the first thing in this digital age, job seekers and even ourselves, it's to build our own personal brands. And how do we do that? How do you appear on social media? How do you appear outside there when you interact with people? So make sure that whatever message you want to put out there, that message should go before. When someone Googles you, what do they see? When someone goes on LinkedIn and looks you up, what do you want them to find? That is the question. What's your why at the end of the day? What are you putting out there? Why do you want people to see this message? So the first thing is make sure you do your personal brand quite well. And also to do that, you need to be in spaces where you can network effectively. Not just mingling, but you're mingling in the right place, with the right people, and in the right way, because it's always your why. And then also as you network with whom and in spaces, you're looking at the time you're networking, and then self-development always. In the digital space, we have so much information in our purview. So Google search, through your colleagues, through reading, you need to expand your knowledge. So let's take advantage of this digital space. Do your research. All these questions are there. You can even put through Gemini or ChatGPT. They can help. Myself as an individual, you have to be innovative and creative in the way you're in what you're looking for, in how you're putting yourself out there. So, and as HR professionals, I would really encourage all of us to know that technology is not a barrier. It should be an enabler, because with technology, we make better decisions. So what are we looking for and what has come out? The good thing is there's a lot of improvement also. Let's not blame people, because I can see post-COVID, even how people apply for jobs and how they come. Not everyone, but there's quite a bit of improvement. People have worked on their CVs. People are doing their own research. So I hope that's not just in Nairobi, but also, I hope as mentors here, you also work in your churches and you volunteer to give this information, because sometimes people don't pay for this information. So what we're also seeing is that, with different age groups, like for example, as an employer, are you attracting the people and keeping them? What is your brand? Because even when you advertise, it could be the same role. However, how people appear to respond to those jobs, it's different, depending with the brand of your organization. So as people leave your organization, or as people interact with people from your organization,
what brand message is going out there. Because you want to attract the right talent, and you want, when you finish the recruitment cycle, as in the people are staying, they're not showing up for jobs. Okay, so brand is very important. So let's use data and technology to help us make right decisions. And also it gives us more confidence because we've been encouraged to go to boards. It's all about numbers. Show the data and let the data back your argument. Do your research. And that's why I'm saying, use your networks. What are you doing in organization? What did this kind of research bring up? These metrics, let's just use data always to help us to build our confidence.
Thank you, Nancy. We have faith in God, and everybody else brings data. Only God, we only have faith in God. If you want to be taken seriously, you bring data. Now, Emily, you have over 700 hours in coaching, and you are partner with Ericsson. And just before Madam Catherine sat, she challenged us to embrace coaching and also to build those pipelines. What is the place of coaching? And let me throw in mentorship, which are different also, in building these careers and these personal brands that we're talking about.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that question. So I believe that coaching in itself is actually a profession that one can build and that one can live on. So what's the place of coaching in the workplace? It has a place in the sense that it builds individuals to grow their own, confidence, to find themselves, to find their purpose, but also to lead well. I think everyone deserves to be led well. And coaching is just one of those human interventions that I really find powerful. Building yourself
we are going to get our own HR. So I was supporting the Somali function of that organization. But when I went in, there were 12, and I could do all the work in 4 hours. So by around midday, I might do just now saying hi to everyone, which is a kind of function because we don't plan for us, right? And sometimes you hire without proper reasons, and you mess people careers because then you hire me and underutilize me. Mind you, it was my first job. So I needed mentorship, I needed guidance, I needed to work under someone that could guide me. So my boss is fighting with my HR director. So I'm not even supposed to talk to the HR director. So I have a whole, like another 4 hours every day for me to pass time with. And I remember that's how I started doing business. Because one morning, and I was corporate staffing. So every day they'll be popping screen, CV for 1,000, CV for 1,000. And that's how my business was born. So I was like, you know? And for this, my colleagues there, I did for their relatives. And without knowing, I was able to make even 200K. This is 207. I would make 200K from my desk in the office. And I was the most hardworking because of the clothes in the office. You know, I would work. and I got so many referrals. And the only problem I had that time that I can share here was pricing, because I never thought about it in terms of pricing. Then it was too much work, too many people, too kidogo money. We get it. So it's very important that even if you're going to start like I started, to also do your own market survey and understand what are the prices in the market. Because how to sell yourself and how to brand yourself as the best HR, as the best accountant, as the best whatever profession that you are. So I took that as an industry, and I worked in that organization for a year, and I made so many contacts and so much money, and I had a good pay. But then something happened, and I changed jobs. I lost that job like a month. I didn't have a job for like a month. And during that month, that was the first time that I registered my company, because I lost the job not that 1 month. So I registered my company. I had operated as HR Dynamics International for a very long time, not registered, no business name. So this happened, and I went to the register of companies, and the name had been taken. I had not to start afresh with a different name. So if you're doing business again, it's important that you know you could be trading on a brand name that belongs to someone else. So very important that you just sit and think, and you don't have to overthink. Like I'm saying, I just threw a stone, and the thing rolled, and we rolled. So don't overthink. It doesn't have to be a grand plan. Whatever that is that you can do, because it's about solving the issue that you see in your space. Why was I doing civics? Because my background is science, and when I was changing from being a scientist to HR, it was a lot of work. I had read so many books just to package myself and to have a CV that can actually speak from a chemist to a HR professional. I had read so many books to just be able to say that I can actually smile naturally, even though I have not done social service. No? So because of that knowledge of what I invested, it was very easy for me now to use the same knowledge to actually be able to solve a particular problem. And if you allow me, just the next step. So I now got a new job after a month. I've not registered a company name. I'm focusing on careers. That's why my company is called Career Management Center. And got this job, another job, so busy. I could not do anything. I didn't think of systems. I didn't think of employing anyone. What happened? We died. So the company died, and I was there for 2 years, and I was busy. I was doing HR admin, which is you know how I can drain your admin. So it was too much work, and I couldn't do anything. So for 2 years, I didn't do anything. People would call me now. The guys I had done for 2 years before calling because I'm due for a job change. And of course, I kept telling them, if you're not growing internally, 2 years is too long. If you're not growing 2 years is too long. We must map your journey. We must map your growth. And that was the gap that I was standing, making people now manage their careers in terms of growing. Where do you want to be before that? I was below 30 then. By the time you're turning 30, where do you want to be and how we so it was not just 3 years, some of them, and they're not coming back now for babysitting. And I happened to my job again. I was back to idling. I had a job that was by midday. I have done so much. I was so happy. But now I'm done. So afternoons will be again now doing those things. And again, I was the most hardworking to close the office. We did that. I was busy on Saturdays and ABCD. I made money, I made networks, I made very many friends. Because of that. And because of the same, for some reason now in 2014, I had another job. Up the challenge. I didn't know how I'll do it, but I took up the challenge. So we signed, it was good. The money was really good for me to have said no. So I was like, I have to take the risk, So I took that risk, and there's something I didn't have in terms of registration. So I remember telling my boss I have to take to this as an emergency. And I registered everything. On the third day, I had signed that contract. I was shaking because I didn't know what to do with it. But that Monday we were sorted. In 2 weeks' time, I found I was pregnant. So here I am. I've signed a big contract. I am pregnant and I'm actually fainting. I was very dizzy. That was my morning sickness. And that's how I got into business. So it forced me now to get an employee number one. Because now I thought I would run it, but now I'm pregnant. And here we have to go to Turkana all the way to Malindi. Some you can fly, some you have to actually drive. And the roads are bumpy. So I couldn't live there. I couldn't live.
All right.
Yes. So I
think Jane has painted the picture of how you end up starting business and how not to sometimes. So what would you tell them as 3 or 4 things that you have to make sure you have done 1, 2, 3? Okay, number 1, just get started. If you can, just get started. But what are those 3 things that you must do so that they don't have to struggle as much?
So 1, if you have time, don't sit and keep complaining that there's so much time here. I hear guys complaining about that. Please use your time well. Time is money. Use your time well. Number 2, get to know what are the things that you can actually sort with what is in your hand. Because we all have a skill. We all have a skill that we can monetize. And there are some things like laptops and ABC that we are given in the office because those are necessities for everybody. So if you're working and you don't have your own laptop, you need your own laptop. It is not a necessity. It is not a luxury anymore. So that people start an office with. And most important, do not overthink and do not fear to start and do not overconsult. Do not overconsult. I remember when I resigned from that job, I didn't tell my husband. I woke up in the morning and he's like, when the job? I'm like, you're looking at an MD. It was like, So don't overconsult because the more you consult, the more guys will tell you don't, especially if you have a good job. If you have what people think is a good job, the people who care for you will never let you leave that job.
Yeah.
And I had a good job. I was in charge of Eastern Africa regional office. So I was in charge of like 7 countries because Rwanda was part of it. And therefore, nobody could have understood how I would have left such a job. So don't overconsult. If you are convinced, if you think you have a deal, move. Nobody is taking your certificates. Nobody is taking anything away from you. If it doesn't work, you can still go back.
All right. Thank you, Jane. Let's come to Emily. Emily has started a business. It has gotten to a point, it can ID Sasa, it can be an adult. She has left the business. Tell us about that one. Because then founder syndrome is a major challenge that we have.
All right, thank you, Irene. I think one of the things I've always been worried of is that founder syndrome. And I've seen entrepreneurs who start businesses, you are there, you are in your 50s, 60s, in your business, and you're doing the smallest of things, including admin and stressing everybody else. And I think also ideas run out. The fire you have when you're starting, isn't it? So you need to be able to also infuse what's different. And so what inspired me was the fact that I always knew that I didn't want to, I'm a founder, I am the visionary, I do the strategy. But in terms of business operations, I felt like that would be another skill I would need to outsource at one point. And I think I've been doing that in different ways. We now have a team, I think the company now has about 35 people, and that includes some of the, so having different departments and making sure that you actually develop people so who can be able to take it on. So don't hold on to everything. You must trust others because nobody makes it on their own. You've seen the big businesses, isn't it? The big brands you hear today, the founders are not in it. Well, that's my dream, you know, that one day. Yeah, so I now sit on the board, but I still love my coaching and my leadership development. So whenever there are assignments in that space, I'll still take them on.
What did you do intentionally to have that trust or to have the people that you can leave your business to?
I think it comes from, you learn from mistakes. And when I started, we all start on our own. I was alone. I think when I quit my my full-time job at Jubilee Insurance, like Jane here, everybody thinks you're crazy. I like what you said about over consulting, because I also had a thing with my husband. I would tell him, you know, I want to leave. I don't want to be in full-time employment. You know, and the gentleman would say nothing on the way home. And so anyway, when I resigned, we also didn't tell him. He learned later that now it's done. So anyway, so how did I prepare myself? I can't say I was too prepared because for me, it was a journey I took to Orlando. I had just come from maternity leave at Jubilee then, and there's something babies do to us. I had already even started creating a business line on, I wanted to build a creche so that at least I can be there and my baby is there. And then I ended up going back to Jubilee. And then I was like, you know, what do I do now? I wanted to go back to school as well. I was just unsettled. And so I talked to my best friend and she told me there's this program for John C. Maxwell. So instead of taking your PhD now or doctorate, he has some very interesting program on leadership development. So yeah, being employed is nice. So even when you don't have the money, payroll, you take an advance. It was a lot of money. It was a decision I made like this because I think I had about 3 months to go for it. So I invested about $1 million for my trip and the course. So I went for this certification in Orlando and I was so inspired by John C. Maxwell. I came back and I started teaching my colleagues and coaching them around the 21 laws of leadership. I went to my CEO, asked for the 8th floor. If you all know Jubilee Insurance, 8th floor. And I said, yeah, I just want to, develop people. It's free time. So John has this business model that he creates in his platform. It's an online university that is forever. So once you join, you have all these contents, business building models. My idea was not to start a business, remember. I just wanted to share this knowledge. I was hungry. And so I went on there, I sent my first email to staff. And instead of doing the lunch and learns that John was prescribing, because he said, if you want to start something, do it small. You can do a small mastermind group or a lunch and learn. So I asked my CEO to give me the 8th floor. Since I didn't have money to pay for lunch, I said, I'll do it in the morning at 7 a.m. So I thought, what do I call it now? So since it's the morning, I called it Rise and Learn. And that's what inspired me to start the business.
Okay, so if you're sitting on ideas, ladies, you don't need a whole strategic plan, but disclaimer, we are not saying you don't tell your husband. That is not the IHRM position. That's a personal position. Let's come to Kemi. You're in the HR space, but you have a legal compliance background. what is the place of cross-functional knowledge? Like if you're going to run a business or you're going to be impactful and influence policy even in your organizations, then you need to know more than HR. And that is something I've had speaker after speaker, especially the CEOs, challenge HR professionals and say, don't come and speak HR. So how do I build that cross-functional knowledge and how important is it?
Wow, a very good question. So, first of all, when you look at, okay, legal and HR, legal is one of those things we usually say everyone should have. Law, and I feel also HR. Like really, you know, they influence, not that other professions don't, but every day, everything, it's all about, you know, are you compliant? You know, when you're making a recruitment decision, talent acquisition, are we aligned with the recruitment needs of the organization? And then is the organization also compliant, right? And then we are looking at also strategy and our long-term goals. So I feel that in the terms of when I look at the cross-functional bit of it, because nowadays we deal also with a lot of advisory work. People need advice. You know, also we are in a very litigious society. We want to avoid going to court or even having arbitration. So these are some of these, you know, cross-functional things that we make. And it actually helps in making, let me say, decisions. You're able to make better decisions, number one, because even when we use data, I'm very pro data. Yeah, you're going to make good decisions. It's going to help also in your, you know, leadership decisions. Where is this decision coming from? Where is this decision coming from? And then when I'm looking at also cross-functional, even in terms of business, like for example, yes, today you are HR, but you want to scale up, be the COO, be the CEO. Do you know what goes on in marketing? Why are marketing guys asking for this budget? Why are we having salespeople on PIP? You know, and then finance. Do we understand budgets? Can we interpret financial documents also? So I feel that even as we sit here, or even as we think about what's next, it's also, you know, we just have to be brave enough and to just learn and to be able to grow. Look at where you want to go and now work backwards. Look at the ones who've gone before us. Now, today we are talking about women on boards, sitting in those board positions. You know, we need to, for example, like me with a legal background, you know, you can do company secretarial work, you can do arbitration. You know, there are so many policy. Here we've talked about, you know, us creating policies, not just being implementers. How are we going to contribute? So it's, you know, all these functions, we just have to open our minds, have the right attitude, learning, doing the research, but know what your why is at the end of the day.
All right, what is your why? As we take parting shots, starting with Jane, the conversation has been about accelerating action for equality. And for us, we also narrowed it down to moving from influence. Influence is good, but it's usually chinyamaji most of the time, to not just being implementers, but leading the change. How do we do that as you give us your parting shot for all the three of us?
Thank you, Erin. I think for HR, speaking to HR, it's very important that we start seeing HR functions with the CEO's mind, with the both minds. And I'll use an example to demonstrate that. For instance, when you come to something like performance management, there's how HR sees performance management. Then there's the mind of the CEO when it comes to performance management. The CEO just wants guys to deliver for the business. The HR could be very focused on the compliance, the forms, the fairness, the whatnot, and all that. So what does the business need? If the HR sticks to the HR lane and doesn't see the bigger picture of where the CEO is, so we have to keep someone for 6 months on PIP because of the fairness and the policies and ABCD. Is the CEO seeing the value for it? And I'm not saying we don't do them, but I'm just saying it's an evolution. We have to stop thinking HR, just compliance and the forms and the templates and all that, and start seeing things from a HR perspective. And they're if you look at all the HR functions, you realize you'll have a HR perspective and a CEO perspective. When it comes to recruitment, it's okay to follow the process. But if you understand your business and you know these positions, maybe they're high risk and ABCD, and it takes you 2 months because we are following the process, we want to get it right in the audit. And I'm not saying we don't, I'm just saying we can step up. We can step up and see it the CEO way and have a scorecard that the CEO can actually approve. Because the CEO is looking at us doing strong hires. We go competency-based hiring so we don't end up hiring talkers. At the same time, they come as soon as we come to the business doesn't suffer. So that's just for that mind shift. The mind shift of seeing things from an HR perspective to actually being able to see them as a CEO. And you can never see that when you spend all your time with HR folks. If at any one time in the HR space, then you are only growing up to that particular, where the limits of that particular box. So join Katherine Musali, Women in Boards, join other networks, expand your network so that you're not just eating the same food every day.
Avoid malnutrition.
Avoid kwashiorkor.
Right.
You cannot live on HR only. You cannot live on HR only. You have to expand your mind and including international exposure. There's so much that comes from away from our technical competencies. So they are the technical competencies, but then the rest of the things is your exposure and your soft skills. And of course, ethical HR. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane. Makofi kwa Jane. Emily?
Yeah, so I think how do you expand your influence in this whole space and even as a woman in careers? So I always say, for me, the first thing is you must start with those who you value most, and those are the people around you. That's at home. You don't make it before you if you don't have that support, I don't think you can. And that could be your children, it could be your father, your mother, whoever you're living with, or your husband or your wife. So for me, I think that has been the one anchor that really supported me, especially just in the working space when I was working, pregnant, going 17 flights, I don't know, in 6 months, having a boss who's telling you, if I knew you were pregnant, I would not have hired you. And then having to manage all these countries. But if I didn't have a support system at home, I would not have done that. So I think very important, as much as we say, even when you're making transitions, not everybody will get your vision. When I was making my transition, the same partner in the house that supported me may not have seen the vision. So it's okay also to just appreciate that they may not be there, but they'll catch up. With time they see it, they buy it. So I think at home, having that support. Number two, don't just sit in the HR offices. You see, we all came. Well done for coming for this forum. Others are busy. They have deadlines to meet. You will not grow just by being technical, in your function. You won't. So put yourself out there. Participate, volunteer into spaces. I volunteered to be a member of IHRM in the committees. And before I knew it, there was elections, and then I was on the council. People used to think I work for IHRM. No, it's because I was always there. And the same for coaching, whatever membership, women on boards. It's not just for Katherine and the rest of the board members to take on. Just put your hands up and put yourself out there. It's not showing off, but it's also being able to really take your places, because Katherine said she won't come and pull you out. You must put yourself out there. So we have 24 hours in a day. 8 you sleep, 8 you're at work. What are you doing with the other 8? So that's what I'll leave you with.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Emily. Nancy?
Wow, everyone has said everything. Every speaker that spoke today has just underscored what we are still repeating ourselves on. Even for me, I would just urge all of us, let us continue to be visible, and visible in the right way, in the right spaces. Like, remember, IHRM called for mentors, be a mentor, have a sponsor, have your own mentor. What you don't know, please learn. And I like what also Jane has mentioned. You don't have to do the technical stuff. Do other things to meet other people, other professionals. Like I play golf. And since I started playing golf, I meet with different people, doctors, architects, and some of them are also running their small businesses, and they have their own unique challenges, and they will tell you, these are directors, the things they won't discuss in the boardroom, they'll tell you on the golf course. So just have also your hobbies. More importantly, believe in yourself,
have the right attitude, you know, and of course, and with God, everything is possible.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let us appreciate the ladies, Jane Mutisia, Emily Kamunde, and Nancy Mokua for sharing their experiences. You hear how people have built businesses. They have made money. and they somehow they didn't even know they were supposed to be making money. Yeah, but we can do better because we have had the privilege of listening to them. So as we run our businesses, we can do better. So thank you. We can open it up for just 1 or 2 questions. Oh, wow. Okay. So we stay here. You tell us who your question is to. I think I'll invite Katherine Musali to join so that if you have a question for Katherine, you will also, yes. All right, so Lynette, then Madam Lynn, then there is Eve, there is Nzula. Who else? Damaris, Madam Kuresha. Hey, okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies. My name is Lynette Odondi. I'm glad this conversation has come up. These issues are being discussed now. Coming up in my career and being in this desperate Kenya where you go to school, you know, vision is to do this or be this, but you find yourself, because of the circumstances in which you're operating, having to be pushed where you don't necessarily have to go. You know, this is my experience. This is you know, the exact thing that I've been through. Now, I'm an agriculturalist. I'm a teacher of agriculture, trained properly. I'm a classifier, trained in America properly. Agriculture, Egerton College those days, 3-year. HR, Kim. Yeah. University of Nairobi, political science department. I did both political science and administration and human resources because it's public admin and political science. So I did both. And then I'm now in diplomacy. I'm a teacher of, you know, those international relations and those nice subjects. Now, I teach in 2 departments at the University of Nairobi. College of Education and External Studies also. I teach development, strategic project management, and all that. Now, coming up, going for interviews and looking for jobs, I was put down for being what I am. Yeah, I would be told by the HR person. Now, I think you are, you know, insinuating that I'm a bit confused. But it was not my fault. Life takes you in different places. I lose a job, I take the next boat. Okay, and I present the papers that I have for what I think is available there. People are having to hide qualifications. And I'm glad this has come up because we should allow people to grow and package themselves and go up and be what they are. Now, people are actually glad that I have done all those things. And, you know, I'm now getting the recognition. I'm a fellow of the Institute of Human Resources Management, like I said. And when I get an opportunity, I talk about the HR issues with authority. In April last year, I presented as an associate of the EU Jean Monnet Network. I presented a paper on the idiosyncrasies of leaders. That is the, you know, that peculiar behavior. And my core argument was that the leaders of states, their qualifications are not stated. You know, it's that you don't have to be bankrupt, you must not be bankrupt. Or then you go to the electorate and they elect you. You convince them whether you're whoever you are. And I started with Donald Trump, and I started with Netanyahu, and at that time I looked bad, but I stood my ground. And you can see the things that are happening. My paper is not yet published. Maybe I'm gonna package and take a bit of it and publish it somewhere with you, Kuresha. We can discuss this later. So I'm really glad. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to share of myself all the time, anytime. Now, Madam Musali, I'm coming to join your network. I'm on boards also. I'm now giving back. I'm giving back to society. I'm on many, many different boards. Sometimes I even feel shy to say which boards I'm on. Yeah, but I'm making meaningful contribution in all those boards. So thank you very much, and well done, ladies. Well, thank you.
First, let me say thank you, ladies, for the wonderful presentations. Mine is just going to be, we said it's a call to action. So I'm just going to talk about call to action. One of the things that came out throughout the discussion is KPIs that we must report. So even if we talk about diversity and gender, what kind of KPIs do we have in our organizations? Now, where I'm going with this, and I'm putting it at Guresha, but I know it's all of us, is in HR, we don't have standards that we all must report on. Finance, we know they all have financial standards, isn't it? I know the company secretaries are developing their standards. It is time that as a country, we actually have standards that are a must, right? So I really want to challenge Guresh, and we are available. She talks passionately in our table about reporting, HR analytics, the data that we need to have in HR. We've got that information collectively with us, but we really must start the journey. I was in the meeting where the company secretaries were launching theirs. You know what I mean? We're all invited, and they have formed a committee that is going to work to go through that and have it as a regulation. So really, we are serious in HR. Please, let's do that. Let's have standards that we must report on, whether you're in public, private, wherever. Of course, diversity standards must be part of it. So that's my first call, and she's supporting it. And we are willing to help. Just let's do it. Let me give her 1 minute to say.
Yeah, I just want to talk about those standards very, very quickly. I think people like Milka and even Irene, they've known me for a very long time. I spoke about DEI before anybody used to know about DEI in this country. I began coaching from the year 2007. I've been coaching for close to 20 years. So I sit at the global forum for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we have developed standards, and we actually release a benchmark report every 5 years. I'm an expert panelist for it. And then for forum for workplaces, we contributed to the reviewed HR ISO standards. And what I want to ask is that many of us are here. How many of you have looked at the HR ISO standard? There is a HR ISO standard. And that's where we actually we contributed to it as the Center for Global Inclusion, because now there is a B. There is the A for HR, and there is the B for DEI. And I was talking to the lady from KCB also, even in terms of measurement on DEI, actually even on gender issues. I'm a founder member of UN Women Empowerment Principle. I was leading the target gender equality for some of the value chains locally. There's a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5 standards in terms and what you should be measuring in those standards. So it's really, I think one of the biggest issue, even though I've spoken about these things for so long, maybe even Milka, even unconscious bias. I offered to teach free unconscious bias classes, but people are hardly showing up online. Imagine, very few people. So the other call for action is we need to have appetite for knowledge. We have to have appetite for learning. And really, just like Clean here, I'm a mechanical engineer. I am a certified public secretary. I'm a Prince too. I have my PhD. I'm learning. I'm big on data. All these things are really important things, because you need to have the appetite for it, because then it gives you the credibility to be able to speak to these standards, to implement to support the processes. All these things that we are talking about, it gives you that kind of visibility. So please let us by all means have the appetite for learning. I will share the a two-pager on the current benchmark report that we are using to measure some of these global organization. Of course, we have now even included, you can then marry DEI with ESG. Right now, the biggest conversation is everyone is backing out from DEI, because Trump said and all that. And that's why I'm telling you, DEI is not really just an issue of race or color, not at all, or even just gender or any other really superficial conversation around identity dimensions. It is a development issue because it's about removing barriers to equality that create all these social wicked problems, from poverty to lack of access. That's why we talk about access. So we have yes. IHRM, I'll send you the two-page standard, and please just look at it. Then of course we can always have a conversation on how to utilize it.
You sorry, she stole my time, but anyway, that's okay. So I think we are all agreed we need to get those standards into a regulation so that we must all report. And it's not just DI, it's the entire HR standards. I know they are there. Kenya Bureau of Standards, I think, were leading it, but we need to refine and then regulate. The second one I was going to talk about, call to action, is we've all acknowledged that mentoring coaching is critical. But I guess the question is the actual how. How do you ensure that in your organizations, you have women in leadership programs, you have coaching, you've got mentoring? I did that in Barclays, by the way, and we had a program where we had a group mentoring. You can't afford to have a mentor for all women, but we enlisted the men as well. So please. It not happen if you do not initiate, and it must be championed by HR, by women themselves, but with support of others in the organization. So I can share the details if you're interested. So you can reach out to me through the question. So to me, that's the second call to action. Can we deliberately have those programs in the organizations? Not about us. It's not about mentoring you. It's about mentoring the women in your organization. And how do you bring on board your CEO and the men in the organizations to be part of the mentoring? And as I said, it's more group mentoring than one-on-one, because that way you gain more mileage and you can quickly do that. So that's my second call to action, and we can do it, and I'm willing to help for those who are interested. Thank you.
Let's come to the panelists. Tafadhali. Okay, so Damaris and Eve. And let's be brief.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the panel. Such an amazing, insightful discussion. And thanks, Institute, for the invitation. My name is Damaris Ndungwa. I am the Director of Transformation, Organization Transformation of Blue Concepts Africa. I support the Institute through Transcend, the amazing program that the Institute is running for mentorship for human resources. So it's an amazing discussion and a very also equally powerful theme for International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day, ladies. I'm not going to go into call to action. And I just want to, I'm a proponent of building high performance cultures for institutions, and a lot has been mentioned. One of the questions somehow I wanted to ask has been answered by this powerful table here, because it's about how do we really deal with biasness or the unconscious biasness. Because when I work with institutions, especially at leadership level, which we are accelerating women in leadership, especially at the middle, there's always these issues that don't go well, especially at the executive levels, because you witness gaps that bring in biases that don't work effectively for the performance of the institution, but we want the right women to get into this position and to get this program shut down. And I hear that we are not showing up for those insights. So the challenge is, I think we show up for these insights to be able to develop that. But I was in, kind of a forum like this yesterday, and there were women who are leading. And the question is not that women are not able to lead anymore, because I think we've built competence and we proved it, right? Haven't we proved our competence in leadership? And I think there's enough statistic to do that. But there is this bigger challenges that are coming into the space that also in a way have been mentioned. Culture is a big thing. And how we connect with the male leaders also is another thing. Because most of the ladies said when we go into the leadership table, it's this face we get when we stand to give our views that the men don't actually believe they can take the instruction from the lady. And there were a couple of ladies who were saying that is a problem they have to overcome to be able to convince higher and bigger simply because you are the lady. And that goes back to our culture, the way I think Madam also, Dr. said in the morning. So how do we make men, and this can be maybe elaborated a little bit from the panelists, how do we make men our allies, but not our enemies anymore? Because I think as much as it's a men conference issue, it's affecting women and women agenda. So how do we do that, even in our small spaces, as HR, in the workplaces, even as leaders? So thank you very much. That's what I would actually want to be answered.
Good morning. I'm very happy to meet you, Catherine, and my bestie there, and everyone who has really contributed to today's discussion. One of the myths that always goes around is, and I think as women, is about women, we are our own worst enemies. I don't know whether we've heard of that around. And when I look back at my career, the people who have been behind me are actually women. Women have had my back. Women have negotiated for me in tables that have not been there. And the fact that you've been leading in boards, and data has actually shown that any board that has women has actually performed like 30% more, because women were able to look at things in a very broad perspective. When you go to the salon, we're able to pick ideas from that. By the time we're getting to the board, we're able to deliver in terms of governance. So in terms of boards, how do we ensure that women who are actually in boards can lift other women up, and from a place of understanding our uniqueness because of what we bring to the table? That question is to you, Catherine. And my question to my bestie, Jane, you've always led women who have had career gaps. How well can you now accelerate this process with these women in this room to make sure that there's nothing abnormal when we go to the panel and when we go for an interview and we say, I took a break because I was raising kids. This is a God's mandate I've been given. How do we bring other women again to support that initiative? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane, you can go first.
Thank you. I'll start here with my friend Damaris on the question of how do we bring men into the conversation. Let me start by first saying that men have never been our enemies. Men have always supported women, as far as I'm concerned. The men who came before us, the men that we're living with, and all that. Why am I saying this? Because it has been a man's world for a very long time. And they took us to school when girls were not going to school. Someone took us to school, right? If the men had given an elbow, we would never have gone into those places. Even now, when they're passing that we have to have the women repositions, politically speaking, and many other things, it is still the men who are making sure that those bills are being passed and we are going to. They may not execute fully, but I would never say men are our enemies. So I'm going to talk about what we call the toxic femininity. What is it called? No, not that. When you're feminist, toxic feminism, that one. Yeah, so as much as we are pulling this agenda for women and ABCD, we have to guard that we do not become toxic. Woman should never live alone, man should never live alone. It doesn't mean in marriage. It means global in the world, in the home, wherever, and all that. So I would never say that we are against men, and it would be wrong for any woman to feel like men are our enemies or like women are our enemies. It's about how we show up and what you believe in yourself. If you walk into that room, don't walk in like you're thinking that you're a woman. Just walk in as a professional like any other person. Contribute your idea and be confident. When people hear you speaking value, they forget that you're a woman actually. And they start asking you, can we hear from Kuresha? Can you hear from Wangeshi? You understand? So invest in your knowledge and people will not start seeing you as a woman. But if you're in that room and there's no value that you're bringing to that particular discussion, tomorrow they will not invite you. There's a story I like giving that I'll not give today. There's a story I like giving about how I started speaking up in meetings, but I'll give it another day, not today. But I almost got removed from management by my boss. Jenny, if you come for this meeting again and you don't say anything, you can take the tea and the samosas from your desk. It was my first management meeting when I joined leadership. If you come to the meeting and the only contribution is reducing the samosas, that you can do from your desk. And I was told the second time you're discussing and you're in the meeting and you're not saying anything, we don't have to waste your time. So it's about you. You want to go for the meetings to compete with the flower faces or to actually contribute and discuss and be missed because of the value of what you're bringing on the table. Again, for the men, it is true there's a problem. So they are good, but again, there's also a problem. We have what we call the toxic masculinity. And we have to keep picking it. When people say, she's a woman, she can't do this. And even the women in the room tag along, we start thinking that because a woman she cannot handle this particular one. That department has very many men. Ni kichwa ngumu, hatuwezi patia Jen. Those will be women that are saying that another fellow man cannot make that. So if Jen has showed up for this particular assignment, please let us just take the competencies. Let us not deny Jen that chance because of what is below her neck. The second question was on how, it was a call to action, actually. Thank you for that. So HR people, I know you know one woman in your space who took a break, not because she had the luxury. Most of them have children with special concerns. Maybe you can't leave that baby, they need to be taken care of for whatever reason. Some of them is because they have nanny issues. Some of them it is just trust issues. Some of them is a husband or a mother-in-law who sees a stay home and brought up your husband. It can be anything. You understand? So I'm asking all of us, if you can actually just sign up, you don't even have to take the women from, I have a database of like 3,000 women, very educated. They spend the time going back to school. But coming back is a struggle. Explaining to you guys in those interviews is a struggle. So let us just take the call to action today, that we are going to stand in that particular gap for our fellow women, and we are going to preach this gospel. And even as we wait for Kuresha and the government to come up with a policy on maybe returnships, in our little spaces, we do the little that we can, and I'm happy to give you those. If you have someone going on leave, call me, I'll give you someone for a reliever for free. We have all the careers, accountants, HR, project managers, IT people will give you for free. Because if you give that woman 6 months returnship program in your organization, pay them something small. Pay them something small just to care for them. And you get people who are very skilled, only that they lack a chance to practice. Actually, they come there so mature and they can pick things very fast. The 6 months, because what happens is they lose their confidence. Just like when you park a car. If you park a car for 3 weeks, what happens? The next time you drive it, you have to jumpstart it. And that's what happens to our women. They take that gap, it's like parking that car for 2 years, for those 3 years. Some things change, some things stay the same. But in their mind, they think everything changed. So they just need someone to assure them, by the way, when you're gone, nothing much changed. And what changed is just this and this. And that gives them the spirit and the confidence to face a panel.
So just allow me to say, to share a quote with you. Trying to be a man is a waste of a woman. So there's a place of feminism and soft power that women bring to the table.
Thank you very much. Very quickly, I think it was the question of 30% at least in boards or whatever, other women onto boards. Research has proven that women will be effective in boards when there are at least 3 of them. Not 1, not 2, but at least 3. And the same goes for men if they're in the minority, right? So if you're sitting on a board, please note that you need other people like you, thinking like you, supporting you to be on that board. So influence for other women to join boards. Women are their worst enemies. I think it was a statement that was coined by somebody who was against women. And we all took it and repeated it and believed it. But it is not true. It became second nature because we keep on repeating it. So whenever you hear it, please say, that is not true. Women support others. And you know what you say stays in your mind and it is demonstrated in your actions. So let's change the narrative. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So gaslighting is everywhere, even on social media. So allow me to invite Madam Amina to appreciate Nancy. Then Madam Catherine will come appreciate Emily. And who has not done it? I'll get someone else. Let us appreciate our panel. Makofi. Thank you, thank you. Yes, yes, you can. It's a bit tight up there. We're not clapping for the lady. Yeah, Emily. Emily, thank you so much for making the time. Asante sana. Thank you, Madam Kuresha. You can present this to Jane. Makofi kwake. And for the online team, thank you so much for staying on. I'm told we got to almost 300. Yeah, so let us clap for them. I'm sorry we didn't have a chance to take your questions, but I'm sure that you have gained as much as we have. And to everybody else, thank you so much for making the time. Like I said, the hotel needs this room, so let us be upstanding and end with a grace. And we can take a group photo at the stairway at the entrance. And now may the grace
God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now.
Amen. Thank you. Let's network kama tunaenda hivi so that we do not inconvenience others. Thank you.
So that I bring on to you.